So don't ever doubt me. I told you this was coming. My buddy Bongino, he told you this was coming. It's here. This moment in time is here. James Comey has been indeed indicted, ladies and gentlemen, for allegedly lying under oath. This is big stuff. And you know what? It comes with a 5-year penalty in jail. I do recall, wasn't it James Comey going on MSNBC and talking about how, that double wide could kind of work for Donald Trump when he was so excited about possibly Donald Trump going to jail? Well, now the tables have turned, have they not? And by the way, there's more people where that came from. We're going to get into all of that. Comey indicted on charges of lying to Congress. Lying to Congress. This is a big, big deal because, you see, it goes back to a 2020 hearing in which James Comey was asked by one Ted Cruz, all about whether or not he maybe encouraged or authorized the actual release of information under the table to the Wall Street Journal. There was some article that was printed, of course, about Donald Trump somehow being a vehicle Putin, right? Because they had this so-called dossier and this so-called tape, et cetera. And he authorized all of that to go through. And what was that about? That was about trying to make sure they set the record straight, right? Apparently, allegedly, this is all because of the Obamagate situation. It's all because Obama gathered everybody in the room and wanted to make sure that they had a narrative to go with. And then when he was asked about it, and he was indeed, I'm going to play you this exact clip, he denied it, even though Andy McCabe allegedly said, yeah, he got approval from his boss. Here's Donald Trump speaking about the issue today, moments ago.
Now, this is about justice. He lied a lot, but this was a very important thing. He could have said, well, maybe, or I don't remember. He didn't say that. He gave a very specific answer, and then he verified it numerous times, and he got caught. The problem that Comey has is he got caught lying, and he was very strong. It's not like, well, maybe, or I don't remember. He gave a very specific answer because it was a very powerful question, a very important question. And when he gave the answer, the only problem is he got caught. So,
and he did a lot of damage in the process. It's interesting that he had his granddaughter, Kai Trump, right by his side as he was giving that information to the press. Again, Comey indicted on charges of lying to Congress. I want to dig into this a little bit because that's the headline, right? So we get a few things to get into today. Why is it that many believe, including my former colleague at both CBS, actually I wasn't at CBS when she was at CBS, but the reporter Catherine Herridge, talented reporter. She was my colleague actually at Fox, and I have tremendous respect for her reporting. She then went to CBS. She had reported on the Hunter Biden laptop. They didn't want her reporting on it. You know the drill. She's over on X now. She's saying, look, there's a lot of evidence there. There's a lot of evidence. So I want to go through some of that evidence with you. But I also want to talk about who's next. And I also want to get into the fact that you've got these Democrats out there, these lefty Democrats that have only one talking point. Hakeem Jeffries comes to mind, trying to say that this is weaponization of the government. Well, what do you think happened, buddy boy, for the last however many years? We had total weaponization of the government. You didn't think this payback was coming. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you're kind of naive. I will tell you this. You know what? Personal story. Donald Trump, I asked him specifically, President Trump, Mr. President, why didn't you go after Hillary Clinton? You know what he said, Trish? I didn't do that because to me, she's the wife of a former president, and she was the person I ran against. I didn't want to do that. We're not a banana republic. That's not the kind of country we are. So he didn't. And what happened? Oh, they went after him. They went after him big time, every single chance they could get. I mean, they indicted 19 people around him. Remember that, including the famous mugshot that Fannie Willis was so proud of getting? So you don't think that he now feels a responsibility to making sure that it is important to make sure this stuff never happens again? You better believe he does. And that's something that we actually all should be in approval of, because this isn't even partisan. I'm sorry. You know what? You do that kind of stuff, you should be penalized for it. And then there's the basic issue of no, you cannot lie before Congress. And this is what they're getting him on. Okay, so I want to go back to 2020, and I want to show you the exchange between James Comey and Ted Cruz. Now, this is what carries up to 5 years in prison. If he, in fact, did lie under oath, and it turns out that Andrew McCabe had the authorization from his boss, James Comey, to plant this story in the Wall Street Journal, remember about the Russian dossier, then we got real problems. Well, we don't. James Comey does. Watch.
To another topic. On May 3rd, 2017, in this committee, Chairman Grassley asked you point blank, quote, have you ever been an anonymous source in news reports about matters relating to the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation? You responded under oath, quote, never. He then asked you, quote, have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton administration? You responded again under oath, no. Now, as you know, Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
So your testimony is you've never authorized anyone to leak. And Mr. McCabe, if he says contrary, is not telling the truth. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not going to characterize Andy's testimony, but mine is the same today.
All right, I'm going to make a final point because my time has expired. This investigation of the president was corrupt. The FBI and the Department of Justice were politicized and weaponized. And in my opinion, there are only two possibilities: that you were deliberately corrupt or woefully incompetent. And I don't believe you were incompetent. This has done severe damage to the professionals and the honorable men and women at the FBI because law enforcement should not be used as a political weapon. And that
is all I have to say. Hear, hear, amen. Yeah, I'm looking at your live chat. You liked the skirt in the background. Kind of, giving Ted Cruz a little pizzazz there, shall we say. Anyway, McCabe allegedly, just so we go back, Andy McCabe, remember he was the deputy at the FBI. He allegedly told the DOJ as well as IG investigators that he had approved a media disclosure and told Comey afterwards. Comey's testimony publicly denies having authorized any of this. So it's a little bit weird, right, just in terms of the timing. McCabe allegedly went and leaked all this information to the press, and then he told his boss, and his boss is like, good job. And Andy McCabe has indicated, allegedly, that his boss said, good job. And so now this is where the discrepancy is coming in, because one of them's lying, right? Either McCabe didn't get the thumbs up from his boss, or Comey is lying. So we do, as you see, and as Ted Cruz outlined, we have a little bit of a situation. Now, Comey's like, I'm innocent. It's like everybody's been joking. This is the hostage video. He puts his little camera up right against a wall. I'm innocent, I'm innocent, I'm innocent. Let's give him his day in court, shall we?
My family and I have known for years that there are costs to standing up to Donald Trump. But we couldn't imagine ourselves living any other way. We will not live on our knees. And you shouldn't either. Somebody that I love dearly recently said that fear is the tool of a tyrant, and she's right. But I'm not afraid, and I hope you're not either. I hope instead you are engaged, you are paying attention, and you will vote like your beloved country depends upon it, which it does.
Okay, here we go. Same old, same old. By the way, I should note that his son-in-law actually resigned from Ms. Halligan's office. I didn't even realize that. You want to talk about incestuous in D.C. Do you realize that the son-in-law of James Comey was actually working for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Virginia? Remember, Eric, he decided to resign. He didn't want anything to do with this. Well, you kind of wonder, is that because your deputy was the son-in-law of James Comey? I kind of wonder. Well, anyway, he's out of there. And now James Comey is on his heels saying, no, I'm innocent and I didn't do anything. But I would say, the walls are kind of closing in. I think so. John Solomon said this a bit last night. I think, do we have the sound of this? I think we do. Let me play you John Solomon from Just the News saying Comey's own people are turning him in.
I think other government officials are in danger of being indicted in the coming weeks, some in the FBI, some in other parts of the government. This is the beginning of a large accountability roundup in government. And I think what's really remarkable, most of my career I've spent uncovering FBI cover-ups. The FBI has a long history of misleading Congress. Comey falls into that. But the evidence against Comey tonight comes from the FBI and its new director, Kash Patel, who promised radical transparency, and he actually provides the key piece of evidence that leads to this indictment. If you're a member of Congress and you've been tired of lying, being lied to by the FBI, tonight's the first time the FBI actually did something about it. They turned in their own man tonight. I think that's an extraordinary part of this story.
It is.
We're going to have a really deep dive into all of this tomorrow, and hopefully all of you will be back with us. We appreciate it.
I mean, it is. It's a huge part of this story, all right? So now the FBI is turning on the FBI, and that normally doesn't happen because the FBI is like all about trying to cover for one another and cover for each other. So this brings up the question, of course, like who's next? Who's next in all of this? Donald Trump seems to think that there will be more coming. I mean, we've talked about McCabe. We've talked about Brennan. We've talked about Mike Morrell. I mean, he's the guy that got that 51X spook letter together that they were going to publish so that you didn't dare think for 2 seconds that that Hunter Biden laptop might actually be the Hunter Biden laptop. I mean, come on, right? I mean, this is crazy stuff. And so there are more heads that are about to roll. Mind you, here's the president speaking about exactly that.
Comey has been indicted. Who is the next person on your list in this retribution?
It's not a list, but I think there'll be others. I mean, they're corrupt. These were corrupt, radical left Democrats. Because Comey essentially was he was worse than a Democrat. I would say the Democrats are better than Comey. But no, there'll be others. Look, that's my opinion. They weaponized the Justice Department like nobody in history. What they've done is terrible. And so I hope there are others, because you can't let this happen to a country.
Will you appoint a permanent U.S. attorney to try this case? Lindsey Halligan has never tried a case.
Well, we'll see, but it's a pretty easy case because, look, he lied. You saw my truth today. He lied. It was yes, no. He didn't say, well, in my opinion, he didn't do a lot of things that maybe he should have, but I don't think he could because he lied. That was a very important question that he was asked, and he wanted to be specific, but he didn't. The only thing that happened to him, he didn't think he'd get caught.
Ooh, well, he did. He did, and now it's going to get ugly. It's going to get ugly. I want to go back to something. First of all, part of the investigation that was done, and you heard Ted Cruz reference, I was going through some of those files there, talked about how Comey ran his office, and there were suggestions there that Andrew McCabe had been given, or at least thought he was given, the A-OK to move forward and tell the media about the alleged Russian dossier, which then kicked off a whole bunch of nonsense. Let's go back to, I think this is 2017, it may be 2018, on The View, where James Comey actually talked about the need to sometimes lie at the FBI, and that this stuff happens, and while it's not great and it shouldn't happen, it does. And you're sitting there going, whoa, this did not age well. Watch.
Right. So I think J. Edgar Hoover would say you followed the rules, and you did it.
Wait for it.
And you were transparent. I mean, if J. Edgar Hoover had a number of flaws, one of them was he wasn't a transparent person. It was all about secret files. I'm trying to tell a story that in a lot of places doesn't reflect well on me, that's open and honest.
So do you think the future of the FBI is transparency?
I think it has to be a huge part of the FBI because public confidence in the FBI is its bedrock. We have to show people our work when we can, as often as possible, so they have confidence in us.
Even if that means your second in command was fired for lying 4 times. So this is where I think the confusion comes from. Your second in command, McCabe, was fired for lying multiple times within the FBI. You defended his character on Twitter. That's okay. Lying is okay internally.
No, it's definitely not. In fact, the McCabe case illustrates what an organization that's committed to the truth looks like. We investigate and hold. I ordered that investigation. We investigate and hold people accountable. Good people lie. I lay out in the book, I think I'm a good person where I've lied.
Whoa! Good people lie. I've lied.
I still believe Andrew McCabe is a good person, but the Inspector General found that he lied, and there's severe consequences in the Justice Department for lying, as there should be throughout the government.
Okay, all right. So there you go. As there should be. Like, you can't lie. So he's indicted, and now the new question is just exactly what happens next. I mean, you guys, I see you in the chat talking about RICO. You get a whole bunch of people that are kind of coming down around him, and I would say the inner circle is collapsing again, going back to, I think this is John Solomon with my friend Steve Bannon talking about the very issue again.
Well, listen, the truth of the matter is the people that say that James Comey is lying is his inner circle team. It was Andy McCabe who said it first. It was James Baker that affirmed it in an interview with the Postal Inspection Service that we broke on your show a few weeks ago. And in that case, remember what James Baker said to the government. He said that James Comey authorized me to leak classified information to the news media, to his chief of staff, James Rubicki. And then we don't know yet what Rubicki's account is, but I suspect those three men are going to be the main state witnesses against James Comey. It's not going to be a MAGA lawyer. It's not going to be a MAGA talk show host. It's going to be his own inner circle saying, yeah, he authorized us to leak, and yeah, he lied to Congress. So James Comey is going to face justice probably at the expense of his own inner circle, who couldn't lie when confronted about what he had done with the leaking to the media. The Taylor Swift thing, I have a little bit different take. I do find it extremely weird to have an FBI director talking about being a Swiftie, but hey, everyone's entitled to their music. But I think there's something.
He's referencing that ode to Taylor Swift that James Comey did a few weeks ago. Maybe he knew that this was coming, and so he was reaching out to all the Swifties, like saying, I'm going to need your help, I'm going to need your help, I'm going to need your help. Anyway, you know what? A lot of people needed some help back in the day. Look at these 19 people that were all indicted, went through all kinds of HELL, because, including Donald Trump and his mugshot, right? Because of the Biden administration. So before they get holier than thou, and you better believe they are, I already saw Hakeem Jeffries telling CNN, oh, this is so deliberate. They're going after him because this is the weaponization of government. I mean, I just go back to that picture, and actually Mike Benz tweeted this one out. He said, here's 19 precedents right here, you mother, you can fill in the blank. You know, for Hakeem or anyone else, and they're all going to say this is the weaponization, I'm just going to say, remember where it started, okay? Here's where it's going to stop.
Donald Trump and the administration continues to weaponize the Department of Justice. What James Comey did 11 days before the election in 2016 had something to do with the fact that Donald Trump got elected the first time around. This is how Donald Trump repays James Comey? With this malicious prosecution? Like, it's all crazy to me. It's crazy to me.
I'll tell you what was crazy to me. What was crazy to me was that you guys went after 19 people, okay? 19 people in the Biden, forgive me, the Trump administration. It was the Biden administration that went after them. So weaponization of government was there. And by the way, we go all the way back to Obama, right? Because this wouldn't be happening. We wouldn't be talking about any of this if they hadn't decided to go out and use Hillary Clinton's opposition research, paid for by the law firm that worked for her, that went out and hired Fusion GPS, a bunch of investigative journalists that went out and hired a bunch of spies, including a hack named Christopher Steele, who used some of his alleged contacts in Russia, he was former MI6, to come up with this concoction of nonsense that read that it was straight out of the Inquirer. I read it. I was like, how would anybody ever take this thing seriously? I mean, this is a whole bunch of, this is opposition research. This is like something you're going to put in Star Magazine at the grocery counter. I mean, well, actually, it was so bad you probably wouldn't even put it there. But this is what they were doing. So if you think for 2 seconds that we're going to sit down and say, okay, well, like, this isn't going to, I mean, granted, I don't want a situation where the world is like tit for tat, but it's got to stop, right? The buck stops here. And we're going to make sure that this stuff doesn't happen again, because you cannot have politically minded animals going out and doing what they do. For goodness sakes, they were trying to call Tulsi Gabbard, who was a member of our armed services. They tried to say she was a Russian spy. I mean, it just wouldn't stop.
American people elected Donald Trump as their president not once but twice. And yet the FBI and intelligence agencies were politicized by his opponents to undermine his presidency and falsely portray him as a puppet of Putin. Title I of FISA was used illegally to obtain a warrant to spy on Trump campaign advisor Carter Page, using a Clinton campaign-funded false dossier as their so-called evidence. Biden campaign advisor Tony Blinken was the impetus for the 51 former senior intelligence officials' letter dismissing Hunter Biden's laptop as disinformation, specifically to help Biden win the election. Former DNI James Clapper lied to this committee in 2013, denying the existence of programs that facilitated the mass collection of millions of Americans' phone and internet records, yet was never held accountable.
All right.
Under John Brennan's
you know what?
leadership.
You got more stuff coming. I mean, the statute of limitations was about to run out, so they had to move quickly on this.